Humanitarian. Good morning, this is Peter Stecker, and I'm here as your moderator today, substituting for Adrian Pace. This is the latest in our IEEE Humanitarian Technology webinar series, and we have about 26 people with us so far. Welcome all. The title today is Leveraging the Power of Engineers, Engineering for Change, and our speaker will be Iana Aranda, who is Manager of Technical Programming and Development at the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. And I'll give a brief introduction of Iana, and then we will proceed. Iana is Manager of Technical Programming and Development. I just told you that. ASME is a not-for-profit professional organization that enables collaboration, knowledge sharing, and skill development across all engineering disciplines while promoting the vital role of engineering in society. It sounds like this is not unlike IEEE at all. And her main focus in ASME is on the development of new technical content in emerging technologies and global markets. She additionally serves as content strategist for E4C, a global alliance that facilitates the development of engineering solutions to improve quality of life in underserved communities worldwide. She has 7 years of experience in optical instrumentation design, new product development, and product management. And prior to joining ASME, she was a lead design engineer and project manager at the Research Engineering Lab in Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. In addition to her role in ASME, Iana is currently serving as the president of the Engineers Without Borders, USA, a New York professional chapter and public health lead for potable water supply project in Western Kenya. So Iana, welcome to the group, and I turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well. I am going to advance the slides, and I hope you are seeing what I am seeing. I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar. Please feel free to enter any questions into the chat area, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. So thank you so much, Peter, for the lovely introduction. As Peter mentioned, I am currently the content strategist for an initiative called Engineering for Change, which I am going to introduce all of you to this morning. So let's talk a little bit about the need that we have seen at the base of the pyramid. The base of the pyramid is a term that refers to the 4 billion people living on less than $4 a day worldwide. And there's a great need, needs that are basic quality of life needs that we all enjoy in the developed world, namely the need for water, clean water, energy, sanitation, effective infrastructure, quality agriculture, access to information systems, healthcare, and of course, education. And what we've seen is that engineers are being called upon more and more frequently to devise these cost-effective, appropriate solutions to meet the needs at the base of the pyramid. And this is no surprise, considering that engineers, engineering students, technical professionals, and the like all share a common toolbox. This toolbox includes this propensity to innovate, a need to contribute to society, and the ability to devise these technical solutions. And what we are seeing more and more as an increasing trend is that engineers, technical professionals, students, and the like are becoming more engaged in supporting decentralized development programs such as Engineers Without Borders. They are seeking out academic programs and service learning opportunities for appropriate technology design, and they're involved more increasingly in social entrepreneurship and corporate social responsibility programs. And there's a great benefit to society in this new kind of involvement, new kind of engagement. Some of the benefits to society include a broader worldview from the perspective especially of students and professional engineers who are starting to be more exposed and become heightened in sensitivity to global perspectives. In addition to that, we have something called trickle-up innovation. The notion that design for extreme affordability, in fact, is better design. When, as engineers yourselves or as scientists and technical professionals, you come to understand that when there are extreme constraints, you have to actually be more creative in the kinds of solutions that you develop. So these solutions ultimately are trickle up through all parts of society, all parts of the world, developing all around. And furthermore, what you end up actually contributing beyond the product itself, beyond the technology, is the spread of technical literacy. And this technical literacy, which is spreading throughout communities, has a power to lift communities out of poverty through a new way of thinking and a new way to approach design and solutions. So in 2009, ASME invested in a research report to identify some of the existing engineering solutions for the base of the pyramid. And this report was based on a number of organizations, well-established organizations, that are doing work in this space. The report yielded a lot of interesting information, including a number of gaps that exist in this space. These gaps are around the areas of collaboration. What was revealed was that development organizations, in this case non-governmental organizations, often need engineering insight, the technical insight and problem-solving know-how that engineers provide so easily. And unfortunately, there's a lack of access to the technical community that was felt just in common by a lot of these organizations. In addition to that, there's a gap with respect to content. What was noted was that information was somewhat anecdotal and disparate. And this, of course, as you see in the picture we have here, often leads to the reinvention of the wheel. So there was a need for a centralized community of practice as an additional training and validation ground. And the third gap that was identified was in the area of community. So what we noticed was that there were educational opportunities that are available worldwide for students and professionals, but they vary. If you are in Utah or if you are in Delhi, different types of opportunities are available for you to participate and learn more about how to do this kind of work. So there was a lack of the centralized hub where knowledge could be captured and leveraged to advance the field. And as we all think through this, we recognize that gaps often lead to the notions of opportunities. This is an opportunity, and ASME, IEEE, and Engineers Without Borders all agree that there was a tremendous opportunities. There was this opportunity to build a network that would bring volunteer engineers and technical professionals across multiple professions to work as teams with local organizations, NGOs, schools, and communities. There was an opportunity to aggregate content and be an open knowledge source for a range of solutions to meet these basic needs. And of course, a resource to develop effective solutions that could be adapted and improved across diverse communities. And I want to emphasize that notion of improved because there's a real chance here to drive innovation. Furthermore, what we have is a chance to start telling stories about how various engineers and engineering students, technical professionals play this role in addressing quality of life issues. And naturally to connect educators and students to real-time projects and identify opportunities for service learning. So with that in mind, Engineering for Change was born. We were born with a mission to bridge technology and humanitarian development and start to support the transformation of communities through open source technology. So the report that I had referenced provided insight into these gaps and provided us with inspiration for Engineering for Change, and it also yielded some best practices that we adopted as design principles that would guide our overall site and our overall initiative. So what you see here is the 5 design principles that we believe create sustainable, affordable, and reliable, innovative solutions. I'm going to walk through these principles and provide you with a few examples. So the first principle in our guiding design principles is the notion that developing appropriate solutions and not just technologies. So the idea here is to really start to think about solutions beyond the technology. And I'm going to tell you an interesting story that I learned as I was doing this work. It has to do with a community in India that had requested an improved water supply. An NGO had come into this community, and at this time, the women in the village were walking a number of miles to the nearest water supply to gather water and bring home for cooking, drinking, and so forth. This was an endurance walk, several hours each day, back and forth, and the NGO pulled the community together into a major meeting. The men, the women, the children all had a group meeting, and there was complete agreement. Everybody was very much in support of creating a centralized water tap in the community, somewhere in a central location. So the NGO began to make plans on how to develop this water distribution network and how to bring water to the center of town. And as they were doing the work, what they recognized is that a number of women were coming to them individually or in small groups and saying that they really didn't want the water tap. In fact, they were kind of against it because, to be perfectly honest, that long walk each day was the only time that the women had to bond, to talk to each other, to catch up, to share stories about their individual lives without the men, without the children often. It was a real quality time that they spent together. So all of a sudden, there was a revelation that there was a contradiction between what the community had identified as a whole and what individual members of the community really wanted. So when we talk about creating appropriate solutions, what we try to implement are techniques that allow us to understand the community's needs, hopes, aspirations. It's in this essence doing a needs assessment, a holistic needs assessment that involves capturing people's stories. And some methods to do this include interviews, videos, group sessions, but also one-on-one visits, because the story comes together from many different angles. So when we talk about Engineering for Change and when we want to encourage folks to do this kind of work, we really want to emphasize the importance of the story capturing and also of the researching what other approaches have been effective and ineffective in these kinds of communities. The next design principle that we're going to discuss is the notion of considering the context, and in this case, designing solutions that are feasible for our community. So understanding user needs isn't just about individuals, but it is also about the economic environment, the infrastructure, and the culture in which products and services will be used. What we would like to highlight is that the best solutions can innovate on existing platforms, but they also require that understanding of the greater context. For example, one way to really understand the context of your community is to spend a day living under the constraints which they are living under, to really understand where the trade-offs happen to be in terms of design. So, as an example, Amy Smith, the director of MIT's Development Lab, requires that all students taking her class spend a week living on $2 a day to begin to understand this notion. So when you you start to think about these kind of trade-offs, you come up with new ideas and new approaches to solutioning. For example, there's a project called PlayPower, which developed a $10 computer based on a cheap 8-bit computer that is ubiquitous to the developed world. The designers didn't create a new machine, but rather built on existing parts and materials. This is what we mean when we say considering the context. The next two design principles that we're going to highlight is the principles of embracing the market and creating transparent technologies. So what we like to highlight is that products should be simple to make, to use, and to understand. And open sourcing the design whenever possible encourages continued repurposing and innovation. Using Creative Commons licensing to indicate a design is open source encourages participatory design and continuous feedback. And we like to highlight that there's a number of techniques to actually accomplish this kind of work, to document and share prototypes, to test and iterate, and really engage communities in the co-creation process. The other thing we'd like to highlight is that solutions should be designed for price, not created then priced at cost. Technology or tools to be truly effective, it must be affordable relative to the local economy. As an example, an organization called AIDFI, which is a Filipino nonprofit, manufactures a water pump for local villages, capable of pumping water from a concrete reservoir up a hill at a 40-degree slope, such a significant slope. The basic pump technology isn't new, but AIDFI enhanced the design by using inexpensive and locally available materials, such as door hinges. The bottom line is they reduced costs, removed unnecessary materials, and sourced locally to embrace the market and put a price point that was acceptable and feasible for the community. The last design principle that we're going to speak to is the notion of DIY, or design for do-it-yourself. As I mentioned previously, what we've seen through our research and through the reports that we've created is that the most successful products and designs are those that are co-created with the end users. Involving communities in the design process builds capacity, not just products or technologies. Here we have an example from one of our collaborators. It's the Appropriate Infrastructure Design Group, and what you see here is an image of one of their co-founders, Kat Lene. And this particular image is a water-powered generator, a bucket generator. And Peter Haas, who's another co-founder of AIDG, has also noted that there's geniuses in every village, right, to make these significant changes to the environment. What they don't have is necessarily access to tools, resources, and time. So by engaging with communities in co-creating, co-designing, and developing solutions that are do-it-yourself, you are encouraging further innovation and further development and a way for societies to start meeting their own needs through this design process. So keeping these design principles in mind, we're going to walk through a quick case study which actually speaks to a familiar problem that is faced worldwide. And this particular problem faces newborn babies. So newborn babies often face hypothermia because they're not able to regulate their own body temperature and can't stay warm. The question becomes how to prevent hypothermia in babies in rural clinics in the developing world, where you have conditions such as brownouts, where you are far off the grid and oftentimes have a very, very small staff. So part of our design principles involve doing that research to see, well, what already exists. And the particular organization that we are familiar with, who actually started doing this kind of work, did in effect find a particular solution. And when you start to think through what it means to develop appropriate solutions and not just technology, it starts to become clear that the existing technology that already is available, namely this incubator that you see pictured here, actually is quite challenging for a rural clinic. First and foremost, you might look at it and say, well, it's a little bit bulky. How are you going to actually get it to the hills of Himalayas? It looks a little bit complicated. There's a lot of buttons. it seems to be that there would be some required training associated with this kind of technology. Would nurses and clinicians in rural settings be able to intuitively use this kind of device? Would it make sense? Would you know how to operate it, maintain it, and how would you actually fix it if it happened to break? Where would you source the parts? Where would you source the skill set to actually, let's say, I don't know, calibrate this machine? And on top of it all, it's kind of expensive. $20,000 US. Quite frankly, most of these clinics operate on a budget of $40,000 for a number of years. So this particular organization that we are familiar with recognized that these challenges in fact presented opportunity. So I'm just going to try to go to the next slide. There we go. So they started to develop a solution, recognizing that the existing solution was just not meeting the needs of the users. And they began considering the context. What were the constraints in this particular situation within rural clinics? The cost was a barrier. The training that it was extensive that was necessary. And the maintenance aspects were just too prohibitive to implement a solution. So they started to begin whiteboarding what other ways could they possibly provide something that was intuitive. And they began to start looking at how women took care of babies in these rural communities to design a solution that was simple to make, to use, and understand within the local context. And after capturing numerous stories, observing, living within the community, and talking with the community members, they developed a very unique solution. This is called the Embrace Incubator. It is intuitive. It's created out of a material that is easy to clean and essentially concentrates the baby's heat to maintain warmth. It is intuitive. As you can see, there's a photo at the bottom right-hand corner there of a young woman holding a child, and it costs less than 1% of a traditional incubator. This is innovation at its finest. And this is the kind of innovation that we want to encourage for engineering for change by capturing ideas such as these and trying to share them with the greater community. So what we've built is an online platform that we consider to be one of the tools for creating successful solutions. The online platform portion of Engineering for Change can be found at engineeringforchange.org. And engineeringforchange.org intends to bring together, connect peers, organizations on the ground, and local communities to work in virtual environments by creating workspaces to post challenges, brainstorm ideas and solutions, to share stories such as the one I've just told you, connect individuals with potential technical mentors, and to help you learn more about educational opportunities. So all of this can be summarized in the 3 C's of our online platform, where we focus on content, community, and collaboration. And you might notice these are familiar to you. These are also the challenges, the gaps that we identified earlier, those 3 C's, which we have turned into opportunities via Engineering for Change. So I'm going to walk through these 3 C's with you to show you a little bit of insight into how Engineering for Change works. So from the perspective of content, what do we have on E4C? Oh, mouse is having a little bit of a hang-up. There we go. So the first part of our content on E4C is our topical pages. These are our doors through which you walk into on Engineering for Change. We have split up our site along 7 topical lines: health, energy, water, sanitation, structures, information systems, and agriculture. These are the 7 areas where we have a lot of innovation and interesting work that is happening. And on our topical landing pages, we provide resources for anyone who is interested in this kind of work to really dive in, roll up their sleeves, and see what's happening in this space. We provide case studies, publications, connections to blogs, and tools and references that speak to this particular area. In addition to that, we provide specific news that we write along these 7 topical lines, as well as an RSS feed from a credible organization of real-time news that is happening in this space. Also, we provide events listings. If you're interested in attending a conference or a workshop or an online webinar such as this, we try to aggregate that information to share with you. Our other incredibly exciting portion of the site, one that we consider the mind of our site, is our solutions library. This is a free open source archive of technology solutions from around the world, organizations on the ground that have implemented learned lessons and are open to sharing them with the community so that communities around the world can replicate and adapt these solutions across the countries all around the world. We would like to see the solutions library evolve into almost an Amazon of appropriate technologies where users will be able to provide input and reviews on these various solutions. In addition to that, we were going to build a program where subject matter experts, folks who have been leading this movement, will provide insight on how to improve these various solutions to guide further innovation and to really drive the growth of the space. So here's an example of one of the solutions in our solutions library, and there's that water-powered bucket generator that I showed you earlier from AIDG. So when you look at a solution, what you'll see is information about where that solution was implemented, who it was implemented by, at what point in time, how much it cost, as well as where you can find more information on other websites, related solutions that do similar types of things, and schematics, reports on how the solution works in the field, lessons learned by the organization. And this is just a starting point. We are growing beyond what we have today. We're trying to grow and harvest more of these solutions so we can provide richer information and more organizations represented in our solutions library. The next portion of our content side is our news. We write news weekly about new developments in the space, about students, professionals, and academics working in the space. We have RSS feed, again, split along 7 topical lines, or all of it if you're interested, sharing with you some of these new ideas. And they're very exciting, and we hope that they will drive more conversation and feedback around what is happening. In addition to that, what you'll see here is our Learning Center, where we provide the design principles that I mentioned to you earlier, some educational resources should you choose to pursue further education in this field. There are a number of great institutions worldwide that have programming and appropriate technology development. And of course, how to use our site, information on the site, FAQs if you start to get lost and walking through the site. So all of it can be found in our Learning Center. So that brings us now to the third portion of our site, which is the community element. How do we see community engineering for change? How do we approach it? The community on Engineering for Change on our online platform can be seen through our member profiles. All of our members, and this is a snapshot of the member profile page, highlight their expertise. Folks provide information on what they're interested in working on, as well as some of the experience they already have to date. They provide information on their social media accounts, Flickr, LinkedIn, Twitter, and provide an opportunity to further connect for collaboration across countries. In addition to that, we are spread across multiple social media channels. The community doesn't just stop on our site. It goes to Facebook, to YouTube, to our Flickr page, Twitter, LinkedIn, and others. I encourage you to check out these communities, join us, and join the conversations. And beyond the online platform, we focus on creating face-to-face events. We put together member meetings. We support appropriate technology programs. What you see there at the top of the slide is a picture from Yale, where a class was developing appropriate technologies, and we came in to provide our input. We also bring together subject matter experts to really discuss how we can drive innovation and development in the space. The last portion of our initiative is focusing on that collaboration, that huge aspect that's going to really create differences in this space. And we believe that we can drive collaboration, support collaboration to the heart of our site, the E50 Workspace area. The E50 Workspace area are spaces where challenges can be posted and multidisciplinary teams can collaborate on new solutions. So I'm going to go through a couple of case studies of real examples that exist on Engineering for Change and live in our workspaces area. So the first challenge we're going to speak to, going back to India, was brought to us by an NGO called Climate Healers. Now, Climate Healers told us the story of what you see there, the landscape in a rural community in India where deforestation was rampant due to unsustainable fuel sources for cooking, namely wood. Wood was gathered for cooking, and it resulted in this barren landscape. And the community recognized that it was not sustainable. And Climate Healers, which was a local NGO, also saw that there was a need for a better solution. So they began to go through a process of designing a solution. And there were some very specific needs in the community. There was a need to cook traditional cuisine, and Climate Healers came up with a fairly innovative solution. It was a solar cooker. A solar cooker is essentially a technology that uses a parabolic mirror to concentrate the sun's rays onto a surface to create an appropriate temperature for cooking. And it seemed like the solution was pretty good. But after implementation, it appeared that the community was not really using the solar cookers. So Climate Healers came to Engineering for Change, and we started discussing as to why the solution was not meeting the needs of the community. And as we started to go through the design principles and they started to evaluate what was going on and began to consider the context in a much deeper way, some questions came to light. So as you identify community needs, the questions came up were, who cooks mostly? And when do they cook? And what do they cook? How do they cook it? And are they cooking with any company? So the answers to these questions are quite interesting. Well, when you think about who cooks mostly, and the crews in the photograph that you see right there, it's mostly the women. The women are doing the cooking. And quite frankly, the women during the day are mostly out in the fields. They're collecting the ingredients for these meals. They are taking care of the crops and taking care of the children. And frankly, most of their cooking is done at night. And there's not a heck of a lot of sun at night. And what are they cooking? Well, they're cooking these specific dishes, namely what you see in the photo there is a roti, and a roti is a type of bread kind of resembling a tortilla or a pancake, which requires a flat surface and requires quite a high heat. And who are they cooking with? Now, this might seem like a very odd question. What do you mean who they're cooking with? Their family? But when you create a solution such as a solar cooker, which is somewhat costly and, as you can see, fairly large, this is something that requires you to cook outside in the view of your neighbors and friends. And quite frankly, it's a bit of a cultural taboo because you do not necessarily want to show how much or how little food you are preparing for your family daily. So now what we see is that there in fact exists a need for a solution that's more individualized, that allows for a community to be able to cook in the evening and to cook within their home, or at least within kind of away from prying eyes. So the idea has been explored to create a stored energy solar cooker. And that is currently the proposal on the table. Climate Healers has challenged the Engineering for Change community to come up with a new solution, a better alternative to what they created, which is this solar cooker that you see pictured here. And you can go on E4C and actually find this workspace. There you see it there. Join the workspace. And if you have any ideas on an alternative way to approach this problem, please share them via the whiteboard or propose a solution or just share your thoughts in the discussion area. Another example, Now we're going to go to South America. We're going to go to Guatemala. And in Guatemala and the rural communities, thousands of families in these rural villages do not have regular access to electricity. So another NGO that we work with quite closely called Catapult Design has come up with a very innovative solution. It is a family-sized windmill. Now we're starting to see more of that trend of individualized solutions. This family-sized windmill that you see pictured here can generate 10 to 20 watts at target wind speeds of 15 miles per hour. It can charge car batteries for use with LED lights, radios, and that really important one, cellular phones, because everyone has a mobile phone. It occupies a very small footprint and is manufactured with local materials and skills in Guatemala. And it is somewhat affordable. $100 manufacturing cost. When you start to look at volume, could even go lower. But there's still opportunities to innovate in the solution. What other ways have you seen that may be able to approach the same challenge? Catapult Design has a Workspace in Engineering for Change, and they would welcome your ideas. Take a look at their Workspace. Contribute your thoughts. If you've seen other windmills, other less expensive, more, portable, more efficient windmills, maybe you can share those thoughts and provide your insight so that today, we will be addressing the challenge of the need of Guatemala, and tomorrow, maybe that innovative solution will really start to impact communities worldwide. And what I'd like to emphasize here for the solution is that this design is open source. It is completely adaptable, and we want to harvest more of these types of solutions and share them with communities. So in addition to this content that I've shared with you that exists online on E4C, we continue to partner with various organizations, really great, innovative organizations such as AIDG and Practical Action, MIT B-Lab, and a Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Areas at the Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay. The Honeybee Network, another large NGO, and many others have contributed to some of these solutions that you see in our solutions library, as well as in our workspaces. And if you know of others that we should be working with, we hope that you will let us know who they are or make some introductions. We're very friendly people. So I wanted to share with you some of the programs that we're currently working on to support further growth of engineering for change. We are constantly seeking partnerships with local NGOs to articulate challenges and with universities to advance curriculums that incorporate service learning and appropriate technology development into the engineering program as well as other technical programs. We are interested in student projects and ventures for social impact. If you're interested in working with us, please reach out to us. We're also looking to expand our reach beyond the online platform because, quite frankly, not everybody has access to the web. But we do know that there is a huge leap in mobile technology, and there are a lot of cell phones proliferating throughout the world. So we are looking to start nurturing some different modalities for communication exchange, namely mobile apps and SMS text messaging capability. We're currently researching how we can begin to integrate these kind of capabilities into our online platform. Furthermore, we want to build out an extensive solutions library with cutting-edge search capabilities, and as I mentioned recently, that Amazon notion of expert reviews as well as user reviews and those related solutions, so you can really start noticing the connections between the various ways that you can approach a unique problem. And of course, we want to keep telling the stories of scientists, engineers, and technical professionals who are doing this kind of work in the humanitarian engineering space through articles, videos, and podcasts. And we want to share this with the general public, and of course with school children, K through 12 students who may be inspired to be the next inventor of an appropriate technology. You should look for us. We're going to be sharing this information and bringing together folks with new programs such as conferences, exhibits, nurturing standards development, and also driving for a fellows program in the near future. Oh, mouse is stuck again. All right. So just wanted to give a shout out to the E50 Coalition. So Engineering for Change was born with the support of three primary founding partners. The American Society of Mechanical Engineers, of which I am a staff member, Engineers Without Borders USA, of which I am a volunteer member here in New York City, and IEEE, who is currently hosting this webinar. These three organizations have come together to really start working collaboratively on this initiative. In addition, we've had some great support from the United Engineering Foundation, our corporate support from Autodesk, and the ASME Foundation. And I just want to leave you with this thought and then the phrase that it is completely and utterly possible to start driving innovation in this space, to transform communities through the power of engineering, which you all can contribute to. So with this, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate your patience, and I am interested in hearing some of your questions, or rather reading some of your questions in the question chat area on your screen. And you can contact me if you can't stay longer or don't want to ask questions now at the email address that you see listed. Peter, I think you're going to take over now.
Yes, hello, and thank you, Iana, for a wonderful presentation. I think the audience will agree with me that Iana is really engaged in this. I could just feel the energy coming through the screen. I have a question to our moderators in New Jersey. Alex, could you, while we're waiting for questions, could you put up the front matter one more time? That's the very beginning of. There we go. Thank you. So I apologize for being a rookie at moderating these, but there are some charts here, and let's see if I can click through them. Yes. Okay, so first, for those of you who have joined, you ought to know that this is one of a series of webinars on humanitarian technologies, and the website is given here. This is being recorded, and so it will be a part of the collection that's available. The team on webinars, as I mentioned, is headed by Adrian Pace, and you see the list of people here who are also on that team. And it is supported by the IEEE Humanitarian Ad Hoc Committee, which is chaired by Amar Raja. Adrian Pace will appreciate any comments you have about the series. This is something I forgot to mention, but I think people were putting their names in. And again, a call for questions.
So I do see some questions coming in. I will take the one here, and I'm going to read out the question. This is a question asking us to please suggest some steps to be taken to make the traditional education more practical-oriented in the Indian context. Thank you so much for that question. That's a very good question. So E50 is currently, we are working with a number of partners, collaborators, if you will, in India. One of those collaborators is the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, their Satara program, as well as the NGO called the Honeybee Network. And we are working with them to really start identifying some of the solutions that have been developed for rural communities, specifically in India. And by highlighting these solutions in our solutions library as well as in the workspaces, we are beginning to encourage educational institutions with which we are partnering to use these within their curriculum. So either use them as part of projects for undergraduate students, start to perhaps look at a particular challenge and have students develop unique, their own approaches to solve the challenge and actually group that in a workspace so that students are able to kind of compare and contrast how different groups that created solutions around the world and maybe take that to the next level, start to prototype in classes, start to really do some of the engineering type of analysis on some of these solutions, begin to apply that practical layer to the curriculum. And also to collaborate with teams throughout the world naturally. So maybe start to connect some of these universities and university classrooms with their counterparts somewhere in another part of the world. We are constantly working to identify new partners, new universities, new high schools, new colleges, technical training schools to really look at the way they are structuring their curriculum. So for example, one of the organizations that we visited while we were in India is called Barefoot College, and Barefoot College provides training to illiterate communities on how to actually approach technology such as solar panels. How do you teach, housekeepers, our homemakers on how to maintain their solar panel and how to install it without necessarily teaching them how to read. There are some really unique approaches, and a lot of these new quote-unquote engineers actually have ideas of their own and provide really great insight into things that could be changed within these designs. So one of the ideas we've had is to match up Barefoot College with university programs to really have students collaborate with this organization and begin to develop new solutions and bring their kind of perspective into the classroom, which is very practical. So I hope that's answered your question. If you do have more thoughts on this or you want to talk about this further, feel free to ping me offline. So that was question number one. Another question that came in is regarding a gentleman who's, or I'm not sure if it's a gentleman to be perfectly honest, so someone who has approached some NGOs in Pakistan and noted that the volunteers, they had a group of are somewhat cash-strapped. So yes, I completely understand being cash-strapped and need some seed funding. Even sponsors would help the volunteers to create potentially stable and feasible projects. Can you foresee help with identifying some potential sponsors? It's a very good question. So yes, we would like to, of course, reward the hard work of our membership. We do not provide the seed funding directly. However, what we are providing is a method, a way to showcase your project, and I'll get a lot of, quite frankly, eyeballs looking at your particular innovation or your challenge that you are trying to address. We are constantly scanning our site, and of course, if you would like to talk to us a little bit further, you're welcome to send us an email to let us know that you put up a workspace and you are seeking support in a particular portion of it with seed funding and, something that requires you to really connect with some potential sponsors. There's a number of ways that we could highlight your work further. We can feature you in E4C News. This goes out to all of our membership, which is over 5,500 individuals, as well as across all of our social media channels, so totaling almost 10,000 individuals that are looking at this. And these go beyond engineers, beyond scientists. You have funding organizations that are looking. And if you provide a comprehensive picture of where you are in your development process and really identify where the seed funding is necessary, odds are that we'll be able to match you to a potential organization that could provide some seed funding. So another question that came in is regarding education. It's specifically how to improve Indian rural education. That's a very large undertaking and a very interesting question. I feel that with our initiative, what we are trying to do is, again, share some of the innovations that have happened throughout the space. And India obviously provides a huge amount of resources and has been doing traditionally a lot of work with rural communities. And what we are trying to collect is information on what have been the most successful, what have been the best approaches to sharing technical solutions, as well as really engaging communities and co-creating appropriate technologies. We are trying to aggregate that information so that students, professionals can start to really see what has worked previously and begin to use it, implement these kind of approaches within their own communities, or to innovate further on them and start to make connections with these NGOs and academic institutions that are doing this kind of work in the specific country. So in the country of India, as I mentioned, there's a number of fantastic NGOs that are doing work, as well as academic institutions. And we are trying to encourage the collaboration to happen with these particular communities. In addition to that, we are looking to start having events, perhaps even things like design contests in the country, so that we can start making these connections in real life, in person, rather than only online. So there's a number of ways that we can approach this need, and if you have some ideas, we'd love to hear them. All right, I'm looking through to see if there's any further questions. I am seeing some names, but I'm not seeing any questions, further questions at this time. Again, if you do want to I'm sorry, just kidding. One just came in. Is it possible to have an MOU with Engineering for Change? So an MOU meaning a Memorandum of Understanding. It is very possible to establish a Memorandum of Understanding with Engineering for Change. We are constantly seeking new collaborators, new partners, content partners, knowledge partners, partners who want to provide funding, if that's what you're intending to provide us with. It's something that I think we're going to have a deeper conversation about, just to identify what kind of MOU you would like to pursue with us. Yes, we are very interested. As I noted previously, and maybe we can put the slide to where my email address is, the thank you slide, Alex, if you don't mind going that one. Please do feel free to email me. My address is Iana@engineeringforchange.org. There it is, IANA@engineeringforchange.org, and we can have a discussion about this. Just as I said, there were no more questions. You guys got really busy typing. All right, so another question here that's come in. Does E4C host or set up hands-on training sessions for potential project leaders in the field? That is a fantastic question. Yes, this is part of our community work that we are looking to really start to do, and that is to connect some of the NGOs with the users, as well as the, train the trainer kind of idea. For example, one organization that we are familiar with, it's called We Care Solar, and We Care Solar has developed a solar suitcase that provides electrification for rural clinics. Very good technology that requires maintenance and requires folks who are using it to really understand how to put together the value of wiring. And I mean, a lot of you guys are, I'm sure, electrical engineers and can appreciate how important insulation is and how to really take care of electronics in conditions where you have harsh environments such as extreme humidity, high heat, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been talking with We Care Solar to connect them with Engineers Without Borders Nigeria, and We Care Solar works a lot in Nigeria. We are working with them to start to develop a training session on this particular technology in Nigeria with the members of Engineers Without Borders Nigeria. So that's an example of the types of hands-on training that we would like to nurture further. And if you happen to have additional needs, or you want to tell us about some training that you've seen or that is required in your community, reach out to us. we'd love to talk about it and explore how we can work with our collaborators, our NGO partners, as well as our IEEE, ASME, and EWB partners to put together a session such as this. All right, let me see what other questions we have here. We have only a few minutes left. We also, just FYI, for those of you who are in India, we do have a India program manager that you can reach out to. Just send me an email and I'll make sure to introduce her to you so you can ask more specific questions. Her name is Madhu and she's very friendly. I will put you in touch. Let me see some other questions. Please do contact us later on. Yes, you can contact us later on. Are there any projects currently being carried out by E4C in Nigeria? Actually, it's a very good question, and I just want to make sure to clarify a little further that E4C is not implementing appropriate technologies. We are not on the implementation side. The organizations who are on the ground, who work on engineering for change and use engineering for change as a way to capture their creation process, their solutioning, their ideation, their brainstorming, and their final solutions, they are on the ground. They are the ones that are doing this work, and we are facilitating this process. We are not conducting the actual implementation. Our partners, Engineers Without Borders, they are on the ground, and their student and professional chapters are in fact developing these technologies. So for example, with my own project in Kenya, we developed a water distribution network for a rural clinic, and we are using engineering for change to capture our design process and to share some of our lessons learned with a greater community. And to also, ultimately, what we hope to do is really engage the members of our community to share their feedback on how the water distribution network is working. Are there any challenges? Have there been any technical flaws? Is there something that we need to address? Have they struggled with the operation? Those types of engagements are very important to us, and we are using engineering for change as a tool to do just that. To answer your question regarding Nigeria, we have actually quite a few members in Nigeria, and we will be presenting Engineering for Change at Engineers Without Borders Nigeria conference. This is a group that's pulling together engineers and students, government representatives, and other NGOs in Nigeria in Lagos in early September. I will be happy to share the website with you if you are interested. Just follow up with me, and I'll send it to you. And I think this is going to be the last question I'm going to be able to take because we are 2 minutes before the end of this webinar. So it's a quite long one. So I'm going to just read it out. I think the way the co-creation of appropriate solutions is facilitated and generated on this platform is fabulous. But 2 questions. How is the content that is posted to the platform regulated? And who determines feasibility of proposed solutions? So how are we regulating the content? So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. So there are 2 portions of the site that I mentioned, and I kind of alluded to them being the heart and mind of the site. The heart of our site is the Workspace area, and the mind, what we like to call it, is the Solutions Library. So in the Workspace area, we have created a very open, fluid, organic type of working structure where teams can propose solutions, and they could be, blue sky, really kind of large scale, or very kind of theoretical solutions even, and they or be very practical. And we leave it to the community to self-regulate and to provide feedback on the feasibility of these solutions, on how they can evolve further. It's a very organic process. We do not impose strict regulation in that portion of engineering for change. The solutions library, on the other hand, is our curated content. These are solutions that have been identified by our partners, identified through our research as being successful solutions, have shown some success, have strong monitoring and evaluation programs associated with them, not conducted by us, but by their respective contributing NGOs or communities. So we differentiate between these portions of our site. So to answer your question, the content that is in the solutions library is there because of some extensive criteria, including strong monitoring evaluation, capture of lessons learned. It is open source content governed by a Creative Commons license and provides enough documentation for organization who is interested in adopting it to be able to create the solution again, as well as contact information for the creators themselves. So moving forward, we are developing a solutions library program where we're going to be bringing together subject matter experts, those folks representing the key organizations involved in developing these solutions, and we're going to be further expanding our solutions library, and that is going to include a solutions selection process that is going to be taken on by this committee of subject matter experts. I can definitely provide you with some more information on our future plans. Unfortunately, we are at time right now, and you had such a good question, and I unfortunately cannot address it because we are at time, but I will be happy to talk a little bit further offline via email. Please feel free to cut and paste the question that I didn't complete answering into an email, and I will take it that way. With that, I don't want to give Alex too much headache and go overtime, as we are overtime already. I would like to thank you all for your questions. They're very, very insightful, and I'm happy to continue these conversations after this webinar. Thank you all.